Hey, Birdland, a tough ending to the series for the Orioles with the Arizona Diamondbacks after that great win Monday. They got beat twice in close games, so they lose that series, and now they head on the road. No off days here. They're playing a stretch of 13 games in 13 days. Cleveland up next on Thursday night. Welcome in. Speaking about playing a lot, Birdland territory is coming at you a lot. Here we are again. And what did we say, guys, the other day after that win? Momentum in baseball is fleeting. You can't count on that big win riding you for the next 2 weeks. It doesn't happen that way. And it didn't happen that way for the Orioles. It's kind of frustrating couple of days.
Yeah, I think so. I think like we said the other day, it's every game in 162 is just its own game. And it's for whatever reason, it's really hard in professional baseball league to continue to get wins every single day. Even after a big win like that, you think the momentum is going to continue, but you got to go out the next day and you got to execute. And unfortunately, these last couple of games, I think it's more frustrating than anything else. Just so close right there, both games, and you come at it with a series loss. I know it's early, and we talked about last week that you don't get down too much, but this is one of those series that just seems to sting a little bit more than even the Pirates series getting swept a couple weeks ago.
I'm totally with you, Brad, especially coming off game one. You get that comeback down 6 runs through the first 5 innings, and then you have Trevor Rogers on the bump Tuesday, Kyle Bradish on the bump today. And with Rogers, it's just gotten to the point every single time that he starts, you expect the Orioles to win that ball game. And unfortunately for him last night, that 5th inning just got really rough for him. A lot of hard contact. He gave up 4 of his 9 hits in that frame. He walked a batter. That was his only walk in that game. But a lot of self-inflicted mistakes in last night's 1-run loss where Jeremiah Jackson, who's been spectacular in this stretch, I don't mean to pick on him, but him getting back picked at third base, James McCann picking him off there when Gunnar Henderson's at bat with 1 out, that type of thing can't happen. I know Beavers, he got thrown out trying to steal a base close in that one. And today, a defensive blunder, Weston Wilson in left field. It was initially ruled an error, and then it was changed into a 2-run triple. That was a big-time moment in the game.
Yeah, and it just seems to be these little tiny things that, like you said, you don't want to nitpick these guys, but it's just these plays that are leading to the results that they're getting right now. And it's just, like I said, it's just a frustrating couple of days, and I'm sure they're feeling a little frustrated, but got to go to Cleveland and face a tough squad there where it's going to be good pitching. You got to execute everything to beat that team. It's what they've proven over the last decade or so. And just you wanted to get that series win bad, and especially today when you get into extras, and then it just kind of seems unraveled there in the 10th. But it's just a frustrating couple of days, and you just, like we talked about, just the momentum is just really hard to keep in the major leagues. And you would hope that those big homers on Monday would have carried over, but unfortunately they didn't, and they find themselves losing these last couple of games to the Diamondbacks.
So the Orioles are 9-9, 18 games into this thing. They had won 6 out of 7 after Monday, so now they've won 6 out of 9, 2 straight losses, 9-9 overall as they head to Cleveland for 4, Kansas City for 3. Now, any fan out there, guys, that had their tax day Oriole outfield of Weston Wilson in left, Blaze Alexander in center, and Jonathan Rodriguez in right, go cash a huge ticket at the window. I did not see this one coming. And so Beavers didn't start, Hauser didn't start, Taveras didn't start, and Ward started as the DH. So they got 7 guys who they could have used out there. These 3 started. And so it was an interesting outfield. What did you guys think when you saw that?
Well, Steve, I think this is where all of the injuries add up in this situation where Tyler O'Neill absolutely would have been out there against Eduardo Rodriguez. And it's crazy enough, guys, in game 18, this is the first left-handed starting pitcher that the Orioles have faced. That's just, it blows your mind thinking about it. But O'Neill absolutely would have been out there in this situation. I know these guys aren't outfielders, obviously, but Ryan Mountcastle would have been out there against a lefty. Adley Rutschman would have been out there against the lefty, but this was very much a makeshift lineup, and unfortunately the ball ended up finding Weston Wilson, and it's a play that I'm sure he would say that he should make, a ball that hit off his glove, but that's a tough left field to play now, Brad, with the wall moving back. It came back in, and he was right in that jut part of the wall.
Yeah, and it's where the warning track is, you feel it, but like you said, it's short in that one part and it goes deep in the next. And so he probably thought he had a half step more and just unfortunately missed that one. And even that play early on in the game with Rodriguez and Blaze Alexander coming together in center field, a little miscommunication there. It's just those things you don't want to see, especially with some of the defensive stuff we've been talking about the last week or so. So it's definitely seems the injuries are catching up at this point. But at the same time, you had left fielder. He had a good hit today. Started a rally that ended up being a 2 after, and they're doing what they need to do offensively and getting enough of hits here and there. But it's just not a full roster at this point, and you just wonder what would be today if they had that full roster, especially facing the lefty for the first time. You'd have way more righties in that lineup that are established major leaguers, and you don't know what would have happened. It could have been the same result, but you always wonder what if. And this is one of those series where when you look back and you miss a playoffs by a game or two, you just wonder if we had our full lineup. Is this one of those games that comes back? I know it's early, but it's still one of those things that you might think about come September.
Interesting. And, Weston Wilson is more infielder than outfielder. So is Blaze Alexander, but they both found themselves out there today. And Weston Wilson, he would say, I should catch that ball. But you called it, Tim. What a tough spot. If he had 20 more feet of real estate, he would have easily caught that ball. But you get a little timid when you got a wall here, you got a wall behind you. That triangle is really challenging at Camden Yards. And I originally thought I was okay with 2-run triple, but now having watched it numerous times, I think it was an error because it hit a part of his glove. And I think most good outfitters make that play. Did you guys see hit or error on that?
I think it was an error as well, Steve. Just, you said it. Weston Wilson, I'm sure if he was asked about it in the clubhouse after the game, if a ball hits your glove as an outfielder, you expect to catch it. But Wilson, just his inexperience in that ballpark, in that left field, that's a difficult left field to play. And I remember them talking a couple years ago when the wall was back to, the original spot where they moved it back. When Austin Hayes played left field, they talked about having basically 2 center fielders in their outfield just because it's such a big area to play. So a guy that's not familiar with it, and heck, think about this, Brad. I remember Taylor Ward opening day. Remember, he had a ball go off the wall in the 8th inning. Tyler Wells was pitching at that time. Byron Buxton hit it. It turned a double into a triple. He played it off the wall incorrectly. He ended up going back to Camden Yards during the off day, the following day, just to get work playing it off that left field wall. And Ward's a veteran.
Yeah, I think it might have been one of Wes's first times in Camden Yards with the new dimension. So whether he had 1 or 2 days to kind of see what it was like out there, it's totally different, obviously, when you're out there full speed. And even speaking of Ward, that 1 home run that he robbed a couple years ago, you're camped under that, but he's robbing on that little park going back. And it's a funky little left field now where it used to be pretty basic and short out there. Then it went super big and high wall and everything out there. Now it's plays a little funky. So it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but credit to, they're probably out there working every day. And like you said, he knows he should have caught it. And it's unfortunate it went off his glove. I think Ben McDonald made a good point today in the broadcast, just said his last few steps kind of indicated that it probably should have been an error just because he was kind of coasting towards it as opposed to being on the full run to go get it. So I don't know. It's a tough call, and they could go back and end up changing it, but you never know MLB what they're going to do if they get a decision they have to make and overturn. But it's just a tough play you wish you would have had, and then you just don't know where the game goes from there, and you have a lead and get it to your bullpen, and guys have been lights out lately. So it's unfortunate he didn't come down with that, but I think that's just part of the hiccups you're going to have when you have to put guys out there that are not used to playing these positions.
So the Birds lose. They fall to 9-9. Kyle Bradish had some velo pumping today, especially early. We'll touch on that and more coming up.
Kratz, the world has a cord problem. Wires everywhere. It's 2026, and it is time to get a
Ridge Wallet 5-in-1. It's not a wallet, it's a charger. Look at this thing. It sticks to your phone. You push the button. It charges your phone while you can charge 2 different items at the same time. Oh, and don't forget, while it's charging, you got a little lean-to, John. That'll help it sit right there. Appreciate you, Ridge Wallet. This is so nice.
Which is great for me. If I'm at the airport and I'm watching a game, I can charge 5 devices and then I can just watch something on the phone. Of course, they still have the wallets that are money too. And we know the code. It's nice and simple. It's FOUL, FOUL. One thing to pack, 5 ways to power. You can find Ridge's power bank at Best Buy, or our listeners can get 10% off at ridge.com by using code FOUL at checkout. Head to ridge.com, use code FOUL, and you're all set. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support FT and tell them we sent you.
Hey, you're watching Birdland Territory here on YouTube and some of the podcast networks as well. And we hope you will subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been doing really well with our initial shows here, some initial success. So hopefully, Birdland, you keep that coming. We really thank you for following us. Let's talk about Kyle Bradish today, guys. 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs. ERA is 5.49 coming out of this. Maybe if that's scored an error, the play we talked about, it's 2 unearned runs, not 4, and he has his first quality start. After the game, both Albernaz and Bradish himself would say this was his best so far. We saw a lot of velocity early. I want to touch on that in a minute. But overall, was this more like the Kyle Bradish we expect to see? And in my opinion, not yet where we're going to see.
Yeah, I think today was by far his best. I think just his stuff all around. And the one thing I really noticed was when he throws his four seam and he really gets behind it, he gets a little bit of cut. And yeah, I saw that earlier in the game, especially. He had a little bit of cut to it where early on, it kind of seems like he was having more ride to it and it was a little bit straighter. Maybe I missed something in the first couple of starts, but I thought that was his best stuff by far. It almost seemed like it was almost too good today. Like, if that makes any sense, I feel like he wasn't used to having that stuff today. And I felt like he was throwing breaking balls that he's expecting to break in the zone, and they were breaking out of the zone almost as if a 2-strike pitch. So to me, that was by far his best stuff. And it was good to see him get through that 6th inning today. I felt like he should have had a much better stat line than what he had based on the stuff that I was seeing today, but everything seemed really sharp. Like I said, it was almost one of those games where I know as a reliever, my first outing out of spring training, it was like, okay, what is my changeup going to do? What is my slider going to do? And it had way more velocity on my fastball. My changeup was breaking more. My slider was breaking more. It's like almost reciting yourself. So I'm hoping he can take the data that he has today and just kind of just get better. That was Cy Young type stuff. That was what we're used to seeing from Kyle Bradish. And I expect to see better things moving forward. And like I said, I thought it should have been better results. And I think he will moving forward after that start.
This was definitely a step in the right direction for Kyle Bradish. A couple of big positives for him. Things that were very un-Kyle Bradish, like his first 3 starts. He had 3 walks in each of those first 3 starts. He only had 1 walk today. Now it ended up burning him. It was Corbin Carroll, a 2-out walk, and then a couple batters later, that was where Weston Wilson ended up misplaying that ball that was ruled for a triple. But Bradish was able to get strike 1. He got strike 1 on 18 of 27 batters. Pitching ahead is just so big. And then, Steve, you mentioned it. The velocity was way up for him. He hit 98.9 miles per hour on a sinker in the first inning of the game. That's the hardest pitch that Bradish has thrown in his career. And it was over 2 miles per hour on average faster this season than compared to his 3 starts as a total, as an overall for his sinker. So Kyle Bradish, he'll say it, he's still not fully himself yet, but this was much more encouraging that we saw today.
Brad, does that velocity mean anything to you? I mean, maybe today it was a warm day in Baltimore. Maybe that factored. He was really pumped early, as Tim said, touching 98 in the first. His average 2-seamer for the game for his outing today was 96.7, a couple mile an hour more than we're used to. He's got plenty enough velocity with his arsenal to win on just about any night. What do we read into, if anything, or maybe nothing, that he threw so hard today?
I think it's more of what you're going to see to come. I think as the weather warms up in Baltimore, you're going to see higher velocity. And I think for him with it, he's just got such good stuff that, like Tim was saying, just starting in the zone, that was such a key today. And I think just having that extra little velocity gives you a little bit more confidence when you're on the mound to be able to attack the guys with your fastball early in the count. I know a lot of times he seems to like to start with his breaking ball, and his last start, Ben made a point about him really going 4-seam early. So maybe we'll see that more as the season moves along. If he has a little bit more velocity on the fastball, I just think it gives him just that little extra confidence to start with the fastball, and then you can go to all the other breaking stuff that he has. So for me, that's all I would see with the velocity being up a little bit, is it will give him just a little bit more to, hey, here it is, let it rip. Knowing guys aren't going to be able to time it up early in the count, and then you can get to your nasty breaking stuff and off-speed stuff from there. So I wouldn't look into it too much, but I think it's definitely something to see as you go along in the summertime, that maybe he has a chance to sit 96, 98 or somewhere in that range. And that obviously anybody would take that. And it just gives you a little bit more knowing that there's a little bit extra in the tank when you need it.
Brad, someone that had a tough afternoon today was Tyler Wells, and he got off to a rough start to the season, and then it seemed like he was able to steady the ship, but now back-to-back appearances in which he's given up runs. He's given up runs in 5 of his 8 outings this season. What are you seeing out of Wells?
It just doesn't seem like he's moving at full motion. I don't know. I haven't seen him enough to know, but to me, it just seems like it's not fully 100% confident. And it's just tough to see when a guy, you want to play a big role in the team, and you're just having a tough time finding where to fit him in this bullpen. And the bullpen's just getting better by the day. And that's where it's kind of like, where are these spots going to be where we can put Tyler in to get his confidence back, especially when you have a lead or something like that. So for me, it's just, I want to see him do well, because the organization obviously has so much confidence with him. And it's just, you want to see him get on a roll of 3 or 4 scoreless outings in a row. And it just seems like he can't seem to back up outing to outing. So for me, it's just that today was kind of a perfect example. That fastball he threw for the home run, I feel like he's either a pop-up or swing and miss. And the guy was all over it today when he hit the home run, Del Castillo. So it just kind of tells me that it's not fully getting the ride that he gets. He's not a guy that's going to sit 97, 98. So 94 usually is enough to get it done. And even though it wasn't in a perfect spot, that's usually a miss hit or a foul ball, but he squared the guy, Del Castillo squared it up today. And it just doesn't seem like it's fully there. And his confidence just kind of seems just a little bit off right now. It's a little shaken, and that's a tough spot to be in there in the 10th inning. There's just no room for error. And you really wanted to see him put up a 0 there. And then, of course, it turns into 3 runs instead of just 1 or 2. So that's always a tough one to throw in there also. So you want to see him do well so bad.
Brad, you obviously dealt with this towards the end of your career, because I think it was the COVID season when they put the ghost runner in during extra innings. How difficult is dealing with that ghost runner as a reliever?
It's something you're not used to, because hardly ever do you come in a game, especially with nobody out and a man on second base. It's usually multiple runners on, but I only got to do it one time, and I gave up a 3-run walk-off homer. So I don't have the greatest experience with it. It was actually the last pitch I ever threw in the major league. So not that I remember it too well, but it's different than anything before. These guys are obviously a little bit more used to it because it's been around for enough years. But when I came in that first time, it's like, man, a single, the game's over. And how many situations are you ever in that kind of spot when you come on base, like a brand new inning, but a single and the game is over? So it's definitely something that I think even for Tyler is really tough, because being a starter, you have time to like kind of build into these spots. A multi-inning reliever, you give up 1 run, it's not a terrible job, but in this spot, you really needed that 0 with the way the game was kind of trending there. And you put extra pressure on yourself, and then he throws 1 pitch and the guy's on third base with 1 out. So now you're just even in a tougher spot. So it's definitely, I think it's a multitude of things that kind of just went on top of each other today. And then 3 pitches in or 4 pitches in, it's 2-0, or you're down 2 runs, and you're even in a tougher spot there.
Here's what I like about Tyler Wells, the post game today. Sort of, I'm not going to say it was like Pete Alonso Friday night, but there were some similarities, and Tyler Wells is very accountable for his pitching. If he gives it up, he is at his locker, and he will talk to you as much questions as you have. And I'm summarizing his interview today. He said, no excuses, extremely frustrated. I want to be the guy they can rely on. I asked to pitch in leverage situations. This is 100% my fault. I don't believe that's true. A lot of things happen over a 10-inning game that could have changed the result. He was only in there for 1 of them. But I like the fact that he called himself out.
He's a fierce competitor, and I've always been huge on Tyler Wells, and I was really talking him up coming into the season, how I truly think he can be a weapon out of this bullpen, a guy that can go multiple innings. And if you looked at his career splits heading into this year, he was always really good as a starter. He was even better as a reliever. And you can even go back to 2021, Brad, where he was closing out games for the Orioles. So he's pitched in high leverage situations in the past. He's another guy. He didn't have a true Tommy John surgery, but he had elbow surgery, much like Bradish did. And he was able to get his feet wet at the end of last year. So kind of trying to find himself and work his way back from that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is too. And then I love guys that are accountable. I love guys that they'll sit there and say, this is not his fault. Everybody in that clubhouse would never sit there and say this is Ty Wells' fault. But the fact that he understands he was put in that spot to put this game as a tie game into the bottom of the 10th, I just think that's awesome. And I think he's going to come out of this. You just want to see him come out of it a little bit quicker because you just don't want to see that confidence just keep getting shot down anytime he's put in one of these big spots. And like you said, he's done this before. It's just right now, it's sometimes guys get off to a tough start to the season, and it's just hard to like get the ball rolling the other direction. And I really think this bullpen needs a guy that's going to be able to go multiple innings. And I think Tyler Wells is going to provide that. Like you said, Tim, I think he's a guy you put out there in the 6th and 7th, like we've seen him do earlier this year, a couple weeks ago. And I think he's a guy that can get really big outs and kind of give that 7th inning guy a day's rest when he needs it. And he throws 2 innings and gets you to the bridge to Helsley there at the end. So I think he's going to play a big role and he's going to come out of this. It's just obviously tough to see that outing today.
Offensively, Tyler Ward had a 16-game on-base streak end in the series finale, 0 for 5, hitting .301 still. Pete Alonso keeps drawing walks. He's drawn 8 in the last 6 games. That's more than he drew in the first 12. That's a great sign. He's obviously seeing the ball much better. And Jeremiah Jackson might be seeing a beach ball when he bats. He's homered in 3 straight games. He was batting .480 on the homestand, OPS 1520 on the homestand, .949 OPS for the year. What's making this guy so good right now, and how much fun is he to watch?
He's been unbelievable, Steve, in this stretch. And much like we talked about yesterday morning, everyone's focusing on the offense, rightfully so. But defensively, he's playing a really strong second base, and that shouldn't go unnoticed. And what's been so interesting with Jeremiah Jackson is he was scuffling heading into that Giants series where he was hitting .214. He didn't have a single extra base hit at that point, but he's just been on an unbelievable tear since Friday night against the Giants, and it has absolutely carried through against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, his swings this series were so impressive. I mean, that line drive today, he knew he got it from the moment he hit it. He just had to make sure to get over the fence if it was high enough because he hit it so hard and so low. But, I mean, that was an absolute bullet. He's just seeing it really well right now. I think his swings are really aggressive. Even on balls, I noticed he fouled back. You're like, I don't want to throw that pitch again. And Rodriguez today threw it again, and he smoked it in the that home run there in the 4th inning, I think it was. And he, like you said, Tim, he's playing an unbelievable second base. I've been really impressed with that part of the ball, and I didn't know he was as good offensively as he was until this series, even last series. And he's putting some great swings on it. He's got power for not a big guy, and it's been really impressive to watch to me. Like I thought he was out there as a defensive first guy, not knowing the team, like I said, as well. And this series, I'm watching him here, and he's an offensive first, seeing that obviously up front. But some of the plays he's making in the field is, what are you going to do with this guy in a couple of weeks if they have to make a move? You can't get rid of him. You got to get him out there every day, and you got to run him while he's hot. That's for sure. I think he's got to be in the lineup every single day and be out there. He's taking good swings, taking good at bats. He can do stuff on the bases, stuff in the field, and it's just been real impressive to watch.
Real impressive. And even in a stat, defensive runs saved, which a defensive metric that needs usually a large sample to really make some sense. But in a small sample, he's among the leaders at second base in the American League. So Jeremiah Jackson is playing better defense. There are stats to tell you that. And what a joy he's been to watch early season. In our final minutes, I'm going to touch on my visit to Frederick last night. That was so cool. And the Orioles schedule. It's about to get a little tougher. We'll touch on that coming up.
Big Bad Morning Show. Vinny and Haney. Inside Access. Live on YouTube weekdays 6 till 6. Search Baltimore 105.7 The Fan. Subscribe for daily shorts right to your phone and never miss what you missed. 105.7 The Fan.
Steve, on Sunday, we were talking about your visit to Bowie to see the Chesapeake Bay Sox, but last night had to be really special for you and Frederick in general because That was their first home game back as an Orioles affiliate since prior to COVID. What was it like being out there last night?
It was so great. The game got rained out in the third inning, but it wasn't about the night on the field, really. It was about the night in the stands. In the community of Frederick, one of the best drawing minor league towns, when they had their affiliation. They lost the affiliation because the stadium was just dilapidated. The player amenities were terrible, and they had to really do a massive amount of work. Maryland Stadium Authority and the state of Maryland and the Orioles and Attain Sports dumped about $50 million into that ballpark, and they got more to come. And so big crowd last night. Community that loves baseball has their affiliation back. I'm so excited for Frederick. That's a good roster too. That Keys team, I want to see how they do. Jerwa, who started opening night, is going to be a good pitcher. JT Quinn was throwing 99 the other night when he struck out 10. So they got some kids to watch. But Frederick's a wonderful community. And Kent Qualls of the Orioles minor league department, and the Orioles, thank you for this, by the way. They gave me my own little private tour of this performance center last night. It's 2 stories, state-of-the-art batting cages, all the data and tech you could want. The clubhouse in Frederick, you couldn't walk through it. It was so cramped. Now it's spacious. It almost looks big league. Mike Elias was there last night. This was so important to the Orioles that Elias was there. Kent Qualls were there. Their brass showed up because they love what's going to happen in Frederick and the move they've made. And Elias told me, Tim, I went up to Ike Irish and Vance Honeycutt, and I told him, I hope you guys realize this isn't normal. Most high A teams don't have what you have. And frankly, the Orioles feel this could be a separator, the facilities they're creating for their minor league prospects over the next few years.
Yeah, Brad, that's what I was going to ask you about. We were talking about this on Sunday, how there's been significant investments in Chesapeake, in Delmarva, and of course in Frederick. And the Orioles, they built the state-of-the-art facility in Sarasota, right by Ed Smith Stadium. You hear all of these kind of horror stories from professional ball players. Like, what did you experience in the minors, Brad?
Yeah, that I would love to have those facilities you're talking about now. I was fortunate enough I went to a small school in college, so every facility I went to was an upgrade from what I went to in college. But yeah, you run in some of these towns, and I've heard stories from other guys who played at Frederick, and it was a little tough back in the day. So it's good to see these guys. A lot of teams have started doing it. I remember hearing about the Dodgers being the first ones that started catering meals for their players and getting all these great facilities for them. So a lot of teams have followed suit, and there seems to be a couple ways to get good players, and that's giving good facilities, giving them good stuff to eat. And you're putting this investment in them. So not just a monetary investment, you got to put all these facility things in there. And it's awesome to hear. And that's really good for Birdland to hear this happening at low A, high A, because you know that it's just going to get better the further up they go. So that's great to hear. It's great to hear what they're doing with the minor leagues, giving these guys a little bit more pay. And obviously the facilities are just being upgraded everywhere around every single level.
Really cool. And it's going to pay off for the Orioles over the next few years, some of these facilities and what these kids have. As they told me, we want to go to work. We're so excited to go to the ballpark to work in conditions and facilities like this. So, guys, a couple minutes we have left. Here's what the Orioles are facing now, starting with this road trip. 4 at Cleveland, 3 at KC, 3 against Boston, 3 against Houston, 4 at the Yankees. The next 17 on paper are much tougher than the first 18 were on paper. We'll see. From year to year, teams change. But what are your thoughts about the O's facing this stretch?
Well, just looking at this upcoming series, Steve, it feels like they've really struggled against the Guardians, and in particular in Cleveland. You can go back to 2023 when they won over 100 games. They're 5-7 in their 12 games that they played in Cleveland. That's just always a scrappy ball club, man. Stephen Vogt, back-to-back manager of the year. People thought maybe they would fall off this year. They're off to a really strong start, but they have lost 3 of 4 heading into their series against the O's. But yeah, the schedule definitely turns up moving forward, Brad.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things it's a good test. I think they have enough games under their belt. They see what they need to improve, and they really need to dive into their strengths. And I think Cleveland's a perfect example. You got to go there. You got to pitch. You got to play defense. And you got to have timely hitting. It's what Cleveland and the Guardians have done for, I swear, 10, 15 years at this point. Every time they they're written off, and every time they're at the top of their division. So it's going into Cleveland is always a tough place to play, and they're going to pitch. That's the one thing they're going to do above and foremost when you go into Cleveland.
And you have to think that this series means a little bit more for Craig Alvarez going back home, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you get your first job, you're going back to the team you were just with. You got a bunch of friends over there, but you want to show up when you go somewhere you've just been, especially he was just there last season. So he wants to show up when they get there.
That'll be a big storyline all series, but especially opening night. Alvarez will be besieged by Cleveland media, and he and Stephen Vogt are so close. They really have a special relationship, and I think it was so cool to see Stephen Vogt, a major league manager, at his press conference in Baltimore. He came all the way for that, sat in the front row, and did interviews with all of us afterwards. It couldn't have been nicer. So it's clear that Alvarez has had some good tutelage along the way, and Stephen Vogt's probably at the top of that list. It's going to be fun, guys. It'll be a challenging stretch for the Orioles. It starts in Cleveland with 4 on Thursday night. So, guys, we'll talk again in a couple days. Rest up and make your notes and be ready for more Birdland territory coming up in a couple days.
Looking forward to it.
For Tim Barbalace and Brad Brach, I'm Steve Melewski. We'll catch you next time on Birdland territory.